Hello, and welcome to something I've been following a little bit. This is a video by Mujin, who I actually very much enjoy. I've watched a couple of videos, but this is about the Crafton versus Subnautica 2 tomfoolery. And basically, from what I understand, it's going to cover the stupidity that is the Crafton CEO who used ChatGPT as their lawyer in court to sue the Unknown Worlds developers, or at least at the time the ex CEOs and developers of Unknown Worlds, for the $250 million payout that the Subnautica dev team were going to get. Yes, come to Twitch. Potato has garlic bread for you. I am, of course, joined by Twitch chat, so say hi. Say hi, chat. Say hi to the YouTube frogs. But yeah, I'm very interested in this. I want to know the behind the scenes because Subnautica 2 is amazing. And if you haven't bought it, go buy it because it's really fun and it supports really, really good devs that are doing great work. And it gets Crafton to go bankrupt. And fuck Crafton.
On November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT would release to the world. What would follow soon?
And it fucked
Hordes
everything.
of students who would finally figure out a way to get their homework done for free and with zero effort. However, as time went by,
I couldn't do
many
that.
others would start to increasingly rely on AI. Not just with small errands or things that help them become more productive at work, but also major life milestones, like love. Relying on this AI chatbot
Yeah, that's one thing I've always been concerned about with AI is the whole like not AI. Well, AI psychosis is a thing, but the what's it called? The AI love triangle, not triangle, but the there's a term for it. I've forgotten the name. AI romance, basically. It is dangerous and concerning and has caused some major problems in some people's lives, and it's very unfortunate because it's people in positions like mine. They have no friends, have no family, have no loved ones, and the only thing they have is this chatbot with one update that, well, with one update, their entire loved one disappears and dies, and in another update, they'll be letting them have their psychosis, allowing them to go deeper and deeper into their delusions. You have AI romance now? Yep. And oh yeah, that's true. I do have the lovely Twitch chatters and you nice, lovely YouTube frogs. Sorry, froggies, as Dragon Sheep puts it so eloquently.
partner in life. And while I'm very happy for these people and can't
Marries
there's a very
AI?
big
Oh
problem.
god.
And that's the
How's
fact
that legal
ChatGPT
possible?
is far from perfect. In fact, it can hallucinate. One great recent example is someone asking it, "Hey, I want to wash my car, but the car wash is very, very close to my house. Should I walk there or drive there?" The obvious answer is drive there because you
Yeah,
want to wash your
you
car.
gotta wash your car.
ChatGPT say, "Walk to the car wash." To do what exactly? I don't know. Just walk. Trust me. This is not an
Yeah, if you walk to the car wash, you can. But if you drive to the car wash, you can go into the car wash and use its facilities to clean your car more efficiently.
isolated incident by any means. There have been countless studies delving into these hallucinations or instances of AI psychosis, which encourage
Yeah, that's
the
what I was talking
user
about.
into delusional thinking.
Yeah, actually, there is a. Sorry, I keep pausing. We're a minute in. There is a great video by Eddie Burback about. He goes full into the AI psychosis delusions. He doesn't actually believe it, but he like does everything the AI tells him to do, and like he uses it as a diary and does what it says, and it's really fascinating to watch how this constant affirmations that, yeah, you're right, sends people down this deranged rabbit hole of losing their mind because they see these AIs like a person, like the chatters talking to me in Twitch chat. They see them as real people. I see Twitch chat, every username is a real person behind that name. Every lovely commenter on YouTube is a real person that I see as a real person. If they were bots, I would have no idea. That's basically how it works with AI psychosis. You think it's real, you think you're being affirmed by a real person, and it's very scary. It could be you, it could be me, it could be anyone in this room.
It's nothing to do with a particular demographic. Anyone can fall victim to this delusion.
Exactly.
Including the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar video game conglomerate.
Which is funny.
He embraced the delusion so much offered to him by ChatGPT that he would start to ignore the legal counsel of the lawyers that work for him.
Yep. And it's funny because he pushes AI into, from what I understand, he pushes AI into everything. So I don't know if Mujin's going to mention it. I imagine he will. But the CEO was forcing Unknown Worlds, creators of Subnautica, to make Subnautica 2 with AI. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. Don't worry about it. The game is entirely made by hand, as far as we're aware. In fact, it is self-published on Steam. So I just want to put those fears to rest, because that is not the case anymore.
He would make up a plan with ChatGPT to avoid having to pay $250 million. Yes, $250 million in a deal that he had already agreed to. ChatGPT would fuel his delusions, telling him,
Trying
yes,
to get
you
out of
can
it.
totally do this. The result? One of the most embarrassing lawsuits in video game history. It would turn out that
so
every single
crazy.
thing that the CEO did was outlined clearly by ChatGPT in a step-by-step basis. He literally let it take control of his entire life. It was incredibly humiliating to both the CEO and his company, ruining the reputation they had so carefully built for so many years over.
So carefully built. Krafton has been fucking things up like pretty much their entire existence. They suck.
For a mistake that even an intern wouldn't make. I've been following the story closely ever since it began in the summer of 2025, and now that it's finally come to somewhat of a conclusion, we have to talk about it because it's truly unprecedented. So you already know the drill. Let's do this. The only thing more fun than driving like a madman around the city is doing so in an
Neverness to Everness
world RPG game. More specifically, with the ability to
Honestly,
do so on scooters, go-karts, luxury cars, sports cars, you name it.
Honestly, Neverness to
The only
Everness
place
isn't
where
so
you're able
bad.
to do that is, of course,
It's
NTE.
not great. It's
The
only
game is
some
not just
time to cook.
impressive in scale, but also impressive down to the most minute details. Whether it be NPC
Hold on. Down to the most minute details. Hand clipping through the wheel. Hand not even gripping the wheel. Sorry, I had to point out. Something I will just quickly clarify about NTE. I have played it. I enjoyed it for a little bit. But there is a lot of AI-generated stuff in the game. I once found an ad on a billboard in the game that was entirely AI-made for a car that exists in the game. So it's not bad. As I said, it's not bad. It's well made. The animations are nice. The effects are nice. It's just they have AI for some reason. It's upsetting. So I just want to give you full discretion while we listen to Mujin praise it without any downfalls, because it's an ad and we're gonna watch it because it supports Mujin, of course.
But also impressive down to the most
We're getting
minute
this for free.
details. Whether it be
Least we can
NPC
do.
interactions, dynamic weather, or the fact that you can fully explore city buildings.
Yeah, like, it looks
Choose to
good.
do so with full freedom, whether it be in first person or third person, either in solo
First person's
or
not
in
great.
multiplayer. There are endless things to do, and when the game launches,
Yeah,
on
see, the
20th
animations
of
are really, really
2026,
nice.
You'll be able to unlock an S-class character, Chiz,
Jeez.
by simply leveling up. And my favorite part is the fact that there's no 50-50 mechanics on the gacha banner. You get the character you want, and that's it. So look, if that all sounds interesting to you, then make sure to get
Not with the standard banner.
by clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you so much to NTE for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, go support Mujin.
Alright, so
check
to
out the
really
link.
understand
Check
how
out
this all
the
began, we
use the
have to go
code,
all the way
whatever.
back to the year 2013, when Steam, the beloved games platform on PC, would release Early Access, an absolute turning point in game development. It would allow you to
Yeah,
release an
the
incomplete
EA
game,
was
charge money for it, and use community feedback to improve it with the hopes of releasing it one day. And while yes, this sounded great on paper, it was actually a program that was heavily criticized in the first few years after its release.
It got
For example, on March 20th,
abused.
2015, PC Mag had written an article titled 8 Early Access Video Games That Were Horrible Messes. Early access games sounded great, assuming that developers actually had an intention of completing them one day. However, some developers would release an early access game incomplete
And then abandon it.
Abandon it.
Yep.
Just stop working on
Abandon
it. After people
WoW.
had paid money for it with the hopes of it releasing with full features one day. And while yes, for a while we did have
That's been
to deal with
fixed.
a lot of early access slop, it really took some time for people to start to truly appreciate how amazing the early access program was for developers that needed it. This article from The Guardian uses the example of the game Kenshi. However, in this video, the amazing example of early access comes from the developer Unknown Worlds.
Yep.
Prior to
I
Steam
followed
Early
Unknown
Access
Worlds
launching,
their
they were mostly
entire
known for
time.
the
Oh, it's
game
not like the
Natural
entire time it was
Selection
out.
2, a fast-paced multiplayer shooter that pits aliens against humans. Now,
did
it
not know
wasn't
they made that.
mainstream by any means. It wasn't making millions of dollars, but it did have a community that appreciated it, and the developer had somewhat of a fan base because of it. Here's the deal though. This game had released around 2012, and it somewhat coincided with the release of Minecraft at the end of 2011. This was important because the
That's good
director of
timing.
Unknown Worlds, Charlie Cleveland, would note that in his opinion, Minecraft transformed the game industry and threw away all traditional challenge-oriented and progression-oriented games. He
Absolutely
revealed
it
after
did.
the release
I mean, look at the release of Minecraft and things that came out playing Minecraft right now. How fitting. Also, don't regret leaving Genshin. Genshin sucks ass. But you look at the time that Minecraft released, everything was sort of similar. You look at like the Ubisoft games, they were always the same. They were very linear. They weren't as open world, but they're still open world, of course. But then you have like Call of Duty, that was still linear. You had what else was huge at the time? I can't think of anything else, but you get my point. Like all these games were still very linear. They weren't as open. They were still like challenge based. They were challenging. There wasn't much creative freedom or creative involvement in general. And then Minecraft drops and everybody wants an open world. Everybody wants the freedom. Everybody wants the sandbox. And sandbox has been thrown around for many years. It changed everything. Genuinely. There's a reason Minecraft is so important.
of Natural Selection 2, the team felt exhausted, and it would prompt them to make a game inspired by Minecraft that involved them trying
do something different.
completely new. So on December 2013, Unknown Worlds would announce an ocean-based game titled Subnautica, releasing concept art, just one image showing where the game would take place. At the
Wall
time,
5,
the game
Wall
was
6B.
just a prototype. And Hugh Jeremy, the head of public relations at the studio, would literally say, "We just don't know what Subnautica is.
We don't know what it is yet."
Specific genre. We just don't know." The only thing they knew was what was in the prototype. It involved designing, building, and crewing up submarines. And that it would also, of course, be in first person. But look, at the
So
time,
first
this was a
person
very
underwater game.
interesting
Got it.
announcement, because this was a developer who had already made a game that was loved by a community, who was hoping to tackle a very underutilized setting in gaming: the ocean. The water. Right?
It's
Everything
still
was above
underutilized.
land
We need
games, but this was
more.
open world under the water. It definitely piqued people's curiosity. And thankfully, people didn't really have to wait that long to see what this game was all about.
Yeah,
because
2014.
1 year later, on December 2014, Subnautica would come out on Steam Early Access.
2015 is when I
According
got
to
into it.
Eurogamer, it would cost £15, a heavily discounted price for Early Access, because today it costs €30 at full price. And
Yeah.
even though it had
I think the price went up to that $30 price after the original, well, after the full release of, I don't remember what the full release patch number was, but it fully released in 2018, and I think that's when the price jumped to that $30. But for pretty much the entire time it was in early access, it was way cheaper. Buy your games in early access. They're always cheaper. Sometimes.
Early Access. This game was very well received. It was innovative.
yeah.
People loved where it was based. The gameplay was
It was
awesome.
terrifying.
It truly felt like you were getting value for your money. It very quickly became critically acclaimed. Overall, it would take the game around 3 years to go from early access to full release, launching on January 2018.
Yeah.
And as you can see, by the incredible amount of positive reviews reaching overwhelmingly positive on
It's-
Steam, this game did not in any way screw up its launch.
Yeah, and it's been on overwhelmingly positive for like 6 years. I think it's actually been on overwhelmingly positive the entire time it's been in its full release. It's wild, and I'm so happy for it because genuinely they really deserved this success.
If anything, it's one of the best examples in the entirety of the Steam library that show what early access can truly do. So it came as no surprise that barely 2 years after their full launch, they would have sold a total of over 5 million copies.
Doesn't surprise me.
An astounding number, especially for an indie developer. In fact, numbers like these are so rare to find that when they do happen, they start attracting a lot of attention. When you start making money and find success, people take notice, and that's exactly what happened here. Because Unknown Worlds,
they made a lot of money.
The gaming conglomerate Krafton. What is Krafton? Well, they have like over a dozen different studios and a dozen different games. Most notably, they are the company behind PUBG Battlegrounds. And they were also the founders of Striking Distance Studios, the studio behind the game The Callisto Protocol.
That game sucks!
Well, but still was a AAA game, I guess.
Exactly.
This is a Korean company that is worth over $1.9 billion. They saw how successful Subnautica was.
That 250 mil is not a small amount then.
Possible. How soon, you might ask?
Holy shit.
As soon as the end of 2021, barely a year after Unknown Worlds had announced that they had sold over 5 million copies of Subnautica, Krafton would swoop in and acquire the entire studio with 100% ownership stake for a maximum of $750 million. But now you're probably wondering, what do you mean for
That's
a maximum?
like half of their entire net worth.
Essentially, they had paid $500 million for the entire studio, right? They own everything the studio had ever done and ever will make. That's $500 million. And on top of that, they also added an option in the contract of offering an additional $250 million in earnings, depending on the achievements of Unknown Worlds after the merger. Now, at the time, this achievement was still unknown to the public, but Krafton and Unknown Worlds knew exactly what it was going to be. Subnautica 2. But they didn't just buy Unknown Worlds for that. They knew that there was still going to be many more sales to come for Subnautica 1. Because as recently as May 2025, Subnautica would come out on mobile, reaching an entirely different platform with many more sales. And
I didn't know that.
In 2026, Subnautica had sold over 18.5 million units. I mean,
that is insane. Yeah, Expedition 33 sold 8 million. I think Elden Ring sold, 20 million? Let me check. Oh yeah, Elden Ring sold 30 million copies. And then most bought game of all time. Let's see, best-selling games of all time. Yeah, that is insane. They're not on the most bought list. Yeah, they're not on the most bought list, but at number 50 is GTA 4, to put it into context, at 25 million sales. So they are one of the most bought games of all time. One of, not the. That is crazy. Also, the jump from second to third place is insanity. So it goes from GTA 5 at 230 million sales to Red Dead 2 at 85 million. That is a wild leap. Holy shit. Interesting. That is fucking crazy. They are all, so Subnautica is almost one of the most bought one of the most sold games of all time. That's nuts.
God, in comparison, Expedition 33 sold 8 million. And this is a widely critically acclaimed game that had won so many Game Awards. So
it won the entire Game Awards.
18.5 million units is incredible. So Krafton had already made quite a bit of money thanks to this.
Resident Evil Requiem was sold like 7 million above that.
Crazy $500 million deal. On Steam alone, this game had made over $274 million in gross revenue. But after adjusted regional pricing, discounts, refunds, the cut Steam takes, which is 30%, and the VAT plus sales tax, they had really made like around maybe $80 million.
That's still a fuck ton of money.
$100 million to buy the studio outright. Plus, a chance at getting $250 million in bonuses? That's more than 6 times than what Subnautica made on Steam alone in net revenue. So it seemed like this deal was genuinely mutually beneficial. Both sides benefited and knew what they were getting themselves into, just like how every deal should be. And so as expected, around October 2024, Subnautica 2 Early Access would get announced. with a release
is
date
crazy
set
to see.
for
I was not
2025.
expecting it.
To Krafton, this was going to be their main money printing machine. This is what they placed all their bets on. If Subnautica 1 could sell over 18.5 million copies, then this, I mean, this was going to sell that and then some. And this
Let's see how much it made. So all I can find is that it sold over 5 million copies, but it sold 2 million in the first 12 hours and surpassed 4 million in 5 days. So it could be looking at potentially about 8 million, 7 to 8 million, possibly. It's hard to say. But holy shit, still got 30,000 players right now. I can't really tell how many it's actually sold. But we can safely say around 5 million copies, which is a lot. Also, Light No Fire is very funny to be there because that's made by Hello World, and we know how Hello World's last release went. Forza Horizon 6, that's pretty fun. Deadlock, I don't really care for it, but it's pretty good.
wasn't based on delusion, it was based on facts. Steam allows you to wishlist games. That way your friends can see your wishlist, maybe gift them to you, but also more importantly, if you wishlist a game that hasn't come out yet, you get notified.
Yeah, it's great.
By the time I upload this video, Subnautica 2 is the most wishlisted game on the entirety of the Steam platform.
Not anymore because people have bought it.
Highly anticipated. But as you already know, we're in 2026. This game was meant to come out in 2025. So what happened? Well, it turned out that Krafton had no intention of honoring their $250 million bonus.
I mean, why would they? That would almost
in the summer of
bankrupt them.
2025, the co-founders would all wake up to a random email telling them that actually their services are no longer needed because they're fired.
Fired the CEO of their own company.
2025, Krafton would put out a press release.
Imagine having like creating your own company and your own studio that you've spent so much blood, sweat, and tears putting love into creating Subnautica or your own game or your own project, and then you get bought out by this big thing with so many promises of grandeur and, like, you know, security, only to wake up one day and told, yeah, your studio that you founded, that you own, that you made, yeah, you're fired. Sorry. Like, the fuck you mean I'm fired from my own company? It's nuts. I will never understand why you would
Krafton announces gaming industry veteran Steve Paputsis as new CEO of Unknown Worlds, specifying Paputsis replaces the previous leadership team, Ted Gill, Charlie Cleveland, and Max McGuire, effective immediately. These are the three co-founders of Unknown Worlds. Krafton would then specify that they sought to keep them on, right? They tried their best to keep them.
They sought to keep them on very highly.
Endeavors. The CEO of Krafton, C.H. Kim, would then say, there is nothing more important than the gamer experience.
Then why fire them?
Around Subnautica 2, we owe our players nothing less than the best possible game as soon as possible. And so, just like that, the game director, the technical director, and the CEO of Unknown Worlds were out and replaced by one person who, as far as we knew, had nothing to do with the studio. Additionally, this press release, as noted by Kotaku at the time, felt somewhat passive-aggressive. One paragraph in this press release that we didn't read was, as part of its oversight, Krafton is committed to achieving regular milestones to assess progress across its creative studios. These reviews, based on clearly defined metrics and targets, will help ensure that games meet both creative and quality standards. This process is essential to delivering the right game at the right
Basically
time.
Just said, yeah, they're not working hard enough for what we say.
To meeting player expectations. So it really made it seem like these three co-founders were not doing a good job. Like they screwed up and just couldn't make the game in time, not respecting the company's milestones. But by now, it was
basically said, yeah, you're lazy. We're done.
Forward to the game releasing anytime soon, you probably weren't feeling too good knowing that the co-founders, the leaders of the studio, were let go. So
I unwishlisted it as soon as I heard about it.
PC Gaming subreddit, now deleted, urging everyone to boycott the game's release, not buying it because of this. Seeing that the fan base was absolutely on fire and didn't even know what to believe anymore, Unknown Worlds would release their own statement a day later after all the firing, on July 3rd, 2025. This statement would re-emphasize that they're still confident with Subnautica 2, that they're fully supporting the new CEO that just arrived, and that this game that the team has been working on has not changed at all. The studio still
Until they would.
Made Subnautica 1, and their commitment to this open development of early access Subnautica 2 has not changed. They'd end this by saying, "Nothing has changed with how the game is structured. It will remain a single-player experience with optional cooperative multiplayer. No subscriptions, no loot boxes, no battle pass, no microtransactions." So look, this was nice and all, but at the end of the day, Unknown Worlds is 100% owned by Krafton. This statement was most definitely approved by Krafton, if not written by them. So it didn't really do much to calm down the community. There were still theories floating around everywhere. But then, 2 days later, the user Flera, who was actually Charlie Cleveland, the fired game director of Subnautica 1 and 2, would make a Reddit post on the subreddit r/Subnautica. In it, he would reminisce about his journey with game development, how it started more than 25 years ago, how it all started with him making a Half-Life mod called Natural Selection 1.
Can I just say, what the fuck are you guys talking about? It's so unrelated. I've been looking at it from time to time. What the fuck are you guys talking about? We're watching some Subnautica stuff, and you're out here talking about sheep and colors. Come on, focus up, focus up, folks. I need to get out the jingling keys. Come on, man. It's serious business. It's serious business. Sheep's more important. They are not more important. They are not more important than one of the greatest indie dev stories of all time. Well, indie devs of all time, not indie dev stories. This is a pretty shit story, but it's interesting. I will go. I'll go get the jingling keys if you make me. Yeah, don't make me get the jingling keys. Yeah, jingle jangle, jingle jangle, jingle jangle over here. Over here, sheep. Pay attention. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. It wasn't even keys. Those are my rings. I just grabbed my rings off my desk. I don't know why I take them off when I stream, but I always do. Just grabbed them. Yes, I have rings. Shut up. I've got 3. I need more. Yes, rings. Multiple. 3 to be exact. I need more. I want more. I wanted more, and I just kind of stopped buying them. Not even a reason why. You have a snake ring? I wish. I've only got pretty basic. I have a fidget ring. And I have a ring that's like skeleton fingers, or skeleton hands, sort of like not interlocking, but like the fingers connect and like melt into each other. It's a pretty nice one. They're honestly not that special. I just got them off Amazon. But hey, they've lasted me several years, so fuck it. Anyway.
He would talk about his journey with the studio, how the community helped shape Subnautica 1, and how even with all this, they also failed making one game previously called Moonbreaker, and how he and the team learned from it.
That sounds familiar.
Interesting in all this statement, though, was what would come at the end. So you can see why, for Max, Ted, myself, the Unknown Worlds team, and for our community, the events of this week have been quite a shock. We know that the game is ready for early access.
Oh, Moonbreaker is the multiplayer game I didn't give a fuck about. This was
going to be our decision to make, at least for now. That decision is in Krafton's hands. After all these years, to find that I'm no longer able to work at the company I started stings.
Yeah, it's such bullshit.
Saying, and I also want you to know that this is not where the story ends.
Hell no.
Only a week into him being fired, things were starting to get very interesting and messy. Krafton, with their passive-aggressive messaging, were indicating that this was actually their fault for having been fired, that the game's milestones were not met, that it was pretty much behind schedule. But here, you had the game director himself and one of the co-founders say, actually, the game was ready. It was meant to come out on early access soon. So already, both sides of the story were so different.
Yeah, if it was already ready to come out in early access, why didn't they release it in early access? It's almost like they were trying to delay it so they could delay the payout from going through or happening in general.
4 days later, on July 9th, Bloomberg would release a bombshell of an article titled, Krafton delays Subnautica 2 game ahead of $250 million payout.
Almost like it was
Krafton would
intentional.
specify to Bloomberg this decision was not influenced by any contractual or financial
Oh no, of course it isn't.
considerations.
Of course it
Bloomberg
wasn't.
would specify the
game just
$250
wasn't
million
ready.
bonus was due to kick in if Unknown Worlds hit certain revenue targets by the end of 2025, according to the purchase agreement, which was reviewed by Bloomberg. By delaying Subnautica 2 into next year, the company is unlikely to hit those targets, and therefore the employees may not be eligible for a payout, the people said. Unknown Worlds leadership planned to share the additional money with all of the studio's employees, which number around 100. Staff
That's really nice.
The acquisition were told they were
So 250 million amongst 100. That is a lot of fucking money. That's like 2 million, like 2.5 million for every single employee. That is a crazy bonus for every single employee. That's insane. Holy shit.
eligible for bonuses ranging from hundreds of thousands to 7 figures. the people said.
Damn.
But Krafton would go further. They would start straight up attacking these founders, saying that 90% of the $250 million payout was allocated to those 3 co-founders. So they were pretty much revealing to everyone that the majority of this money was going to 3 people, that they weren't sharing it with the rest of the studio. Additionally, Krafton accused the executives of abandoning their responsibilities in order to work on other projects, including a film, leading to delays for the game. Their official statement
Yeah, they probably started working on this film because they weren't at the company anymore.
would say, "We are deeply disappointed by the former leadership's conduct, and above all, we feel a profound betrayal by their failure to honor the trust placed in them by our fans." And during
I
this
can't
event
help
to
but
watch
notice
this
that
week,
Krafton is
the new
doing
CEO
nothing but
of Unknown
attack
Worlds would take
the
questions from
owners.
employees during a town hall. Someone would ask, "Did you guys delay this game to not pay out the bonus?" To which he would say, "It's a good question, and I would appreciate patience on this particular topic." He would then double
I
down
want to talk about it,
on they
basically.
really want this game to release in an
I don't really feel like
They
it.
take the game very seriously, which is why it was delayed. So look, the more we learned about what was going on behind the scenes and the more Krafton released statements about this whole mess, it really was starting to feel like the bonus did have something to do with this. At the end of the day, Krafton wasn't
It's the
studio
Streisand
behind
effect in full
Subnautica
force.
1. The co-founders were though, and their story was so different from Krafton that it caused a lot of concern. By now, people really didn't know what the hell
Rightfully
to
so.
believe. They were just sad that this game seemed like it was never going to come out. And speaking on the game coming out, on the same day the Bloomberg article would come out, Unknown Worlds would make a statement on their website saying, "An update on Subnautica 2 early access." Here they would reiterate that they got feedback for Subnautica 2 and that it simply wasn't ready to come out in 2025 as it was already planned. And so the new date for the early access release of the game was going to be in 2026, effectively delaying it by a year. In parallel, they would
Yep.
also showcase gameplay.
And when did it come out?
saying that
2026.
This was their way of showcasing their confidence with how the game was coming along. But as people were barely starting to process the fact that the game was going to be delayed by a year, one day later, on July 10th, 2025, Charlie Cleveland, the ex-game director of Subnautica 2, would, on his own website, release a blog titled Lawsuit.
They fired a lawsuit.
Hello,
Let's go.
It continues to be an explosive and surreal time for the Subnautica team and community. None of this is what we wanted, but we truly appreciate the amazing support we've gotten from everyone. It means a lot to us, especially now. As I wrote last week, he's referring to the Reddit thread. We know in our souls that the game is ready
Thank
for
you.
early access. That's just how we roll, and we'd like nothing more than for you to play it. Game devs live for this, but it's not currently under our control. We've now filed a lawsuit against Krafton. The details should eventually become, at least mostly, public. You all deserve the full story. Suing a multi-billion-dollar company in a painful, public, and possibly protracted way was certainly not on my bucket list. But this
No shit. I don't think anyone wants to sue
Subnautica
a
has been my life's work,
multi-billion-dollar
and I would never
company.
willingly abandon it or the amazing team that has poured their hearts into it. As for the earnout, the idea that Max, Ted, and I wanted to keep it all for ourselves is totally untrue. I'm in this industry because I love it, not for the riches. Historically, we've always shared our profits with the team and did the same when we sold the studio. You can be damn sure we'll continue with the earnout/bonus as well. They deserve it for all their incredible work trying to get this game into your hands. Stay tuned. Signed, Charlie.
It kind of tells me that the $250 million payout that the CEOs were going to get was going to go if it did happen, was not going to go to the company. It was going to go to the current owner so they could get all the money, so that the one person could get it and be rich, rather than, like, they probably expressed to Crafton that, yeah, we want to share it with the entire team. And like, that's a good idea. Maybe I should keep it for myself, because why the fuck would you give it to the rest of the team?
So I just like to point out something,
Because
right?
CEOs be CEOing.
Barely 8 days. All right, they got fired on July 2nd, and this is happening on July 10th. As a Subnautica fan, you were waking up every single day with like a slap to the face. What the hell's happening? So this blog post,
Just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch.
was ready. It was meant to release. Crafton stopped us. And on top of that, the final paragraph here was a dig to the statement Crafton made about the co-founders, about the fact that they were intending to keep 90% of the bonus between themselves. Things were getting nasty very quickly. And so 6 days would pass, and Charlie would again make a statement, this time on Twitter, saying, "Hello everyone. The saga continues. In my previous post, I mentioned that there would be more to come. Well, today you can finally read the official complaint, the original unknown.
Yeah, he gave us the Google Docu.
Unfortunate we are here in this
Too bad
situation.
it's not 1,000 pages.
Everything we can to make things right for everyone. Openness and transparency is my thing, so we're glad to bring this truth to light." It was
I'm glad that he was, like,
moving
updating
forward,
the
and
community
we had
about
access to the
everything.
Complete complaint to see exactly what the problem was. The complaint itself was around 58 pages. It was uploaded on Scribd, I guess that's how you call the website, and it would be
fuck
viewed
is
by almost
Scribd?
100,000 people. So here, Charlie and the other two co-founders accuse Crafton of deliberately sabotaging and delaying the game's release to avoid paying out the $250 million that was agreed upon during the acquisition of their studio. One of the concluding paragraphs here is really interesting.
Oh god,
It
you need to
said,
kernel
"In
that a little
short,
better.
Crafton flagrantly breached both the letter and the spirit of the promises at the very core of its agreement to purchase Unknown Worlds. It promised to leave creative and operational control in the hands of the founders. Promise broken. It promised to consult with the founders before taking any action that could harm the earnout. Promise broken. It promised not to take any
God,
action
this
with
is
the primary business
fucking
purpose of
evil.
frustrating the earnout. Promise broken.
This bit I didn't know
Promised
about.
not to terminate the founders without cause. Promise broken. Why? Because Crafton knew that allowing the founders to launch Subnautica 2 as planned would generate enormous commercial success and require Crafton to pay the $250 million earnout. By
Yeah, because then Crafton wouldn't get the money and or would go broke. So if they could find ways to sneak around it, they could maybe keep that money for themselves. I fucking hate Big Corpo. There's a reason indie games are on top. Unfortunately, this indie game happened to become a AAA game.
firing the founders and delaying the launch, Crafton can capture, what's left of, the game's commercial success without paying the Unknown Worlds team a penny of the earnout. So as you can see, this accusation was not light at all, and it was aired out to the public. Now everyone knew what was actually going on here. This went against the entire spirit of the acquisition, and it seemed like Crafton was playing very dirty. At the same time,
Seems like it was
during
planned from the
this,
beginning.
someone would leak some internal slides from Crafton. It dated back to May 2025. And we can see Crafton's logic to delaying the entire game's release due to, like, barely a couple of things that were changed.
Compared to Q2 2023, 2 biomes were removed. One type of Leviathan removed, fewer creatures, biomods. And character customization feature excluded. So, in this far right one is all the stuff they haven't changed or have removed that needs to be fixed. And that's their reason for it. Oh yeah, you can see, so 2023, this is the list of things that are in it. 2024, this is all the things that were in it. And 2025, you can see all the things that they've removed from it because of the scope of the game. Oh, the multiplayer is peer-to-peer. Ah. That can be dangerous, but cool. Crossplay and progression? Damn, nice. It seems like the modes and platforms have not changed. Like that has stayed the exact same. Custom game mode removed. What? No, it didn't. Oh yeah, it did. And in 2024 it removed. But it is interesting that, yeah, so peer-to-peer basically means that if me and Dragon Sheep wanted to play Subnautica 2 together, instead of both of our computers talking to a server that then sends the information out, our computers talk to each other, basically, and the kind of. And then the infrastructure they have is what oversees it. It's much harder to do securely. It's what COD uses. COD uses peer-to-peer connections, which is a problem because if you have someone who has a rat, I don't remember what it stands for, but basically rats infect peer-to-peer connections, so they can essentially bypass any security that is there to get access to your computer, and it's a real problem because you can't play any COD past like 2022 without the risk of getting hacked. And it sucks because I really, really want to play Black Ops 2 and 3 on stream because it'd be so much fun, but I'm so afraid of getting hacked. Like, you have no idea how much I want to play. I haven't played those games in years. I love those games. But yeah, peer-to-peer, it's helpful because you get a much more direct connection and it's quicker and less latency, but it's also less safe, basically. I was going to explain it regardless, but you guys asking it happened to be perfect timing. But yeah, it's interesting because you can see everything they plan to do or have done laid out in 3 different years in Q2 of each year. And then you can see everything that was changed in the final box, or the final column, which is hidden behind me here. And this column behind me is what they were based on, or what they were basing on. It was basically their reasoning for kicking out the CEOs, which is crazy because it's fuck all that they've removed. Like, they've removed 2 biomes. Okay, cool. And they've added a bunch of other stuff. Removed 1 Leviathan, fewer creatures, and character customization. That's fine. But they've added more stuff into the biomod system. Like, they've done other stuff, but it's like, no, these things have been removed. They didn't do it well enough. Hack yourself so no one can hack you. Not how that works.
2 biomes were removed. A small amount of
going over it
features
anyway.
were not there. Some equipment was reduced. A custom game mode was not there. And there was 1 narrative that was delayed. Due to these things, Krafton argued that this entire game needs to be delayed 1 year, even though it was meant to release in early access. Even though Subnautica 1, when it first released in early access, barely had any of this. It had like maybe 1/10 of all the features. This gave even more ground to the argument that the founders were trying to make. When these slides leaked, Krafton would immediately make a response, saying, "The document that has been circulating on social media and reported by various outlets is indeed part of an internal milestone review conducted as part of Subnautica 2. Milestone reviews are conducted regularly in collaboration with Krafton's creative studios across all projects.
Yeah,
These reviews help
sure.
assess development
They probably
progress,
are.
define clear objectives, and ensure that each project aligns with Krafton's standards in both creativity and quality. This process
Krafton
is central to
standards,
Krafton's commitment to delivering polished,
Their quality
high-quality games
control.
at the right time. Thing is, though, part of the deal of acquiring Unknown Worlds is that they wouldn't interfere. This was not a decision that was up to them to make. And what went against this narrative was the fact that in the lawsuit made by the co-founders, you'd see a section saying, one of Krafton's El Segundo publishing employees reported to Gil, who was the CEO at the time, one of the co-founders, that Krafton headquarters told all Krafton teams to stop all creative tasks related to Subnautica 2. The employee supervisor even demanded that he and his team cease communication with Unknown Worlds altogether. So they went against every aspect of the acquisition.
They broke
Lied
every
and
rule.
made the
Jesus
co-founders look bad
Christ.
as if they weren't working. And on top of that, we're isolating the studio from being able to make progress. This is what was at stake here. And so the next step in all this would come almost a month later. On August 12th, 2025, Krafton would counter the lawsuit, arguing that actually the only people who broke this agreement were the co-founders. In this almost 102-page document, in which Krafton gets questioned a lot of questions and they answer, they would also make their case as to what exactly happened from their point of view. And they'd say, things fully veered off course by the spring of 2025. Unknown Worlds received extensive feedback from Krafton's
Not from what
publishing
we've
firms,
seen.
which indicated that Subnautica 2 was not ready for release. Krafton's CEO warned the key employees that a premature early access release of a highly anticipated sequel like Subnautica could cause irreversible harm to the entire IP franchise, pointing to the sequel to Kerbal Space Program as a prime example. But as the end of the earn-out period drew nearer, the game was still nowhere near its planned scope.
When KSP 2 released, that game did not do well at all. Actually, I wonder how KSP 2 is doing. Yeah, KSP 2 did terribly, but KSP 1 is still fantastic. If you like space and you like rockets and you like all that sort of stuff, Kerbal Space Program is amazing. It's really, really fun. I played it back in like 2014. It was really fun. Yeah, Kerbal Space Program 2. I wonder how it's doing today. Oh no. Kerbal Space Program 2, released in 2023. We are in 2026. Still mostly negative with 27,000 reviews. 26% of them are positive. That's really bad. What are they saying? Oh, it's still... Okay, so it's just been abandoned. That's why. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna get you guys to look at this. So, this is KSP2. It has been not updated. It's been completely abandoned. The last update made by the developers was over 24 months ago. The information about the timeline described the developers here may no longer be up to date. Yep. So the game has been entirely abandoned by the developers because apparently 2K closed the studio, fired the developers, and the game is not under development, claiming this is still in early access is completely fraudulent. So they've abandoned a game that wasn't doing well, and in doing so, they shut it down. They shut down the studio, which is insane. Intercept Games. Nope, that's not the devs. Private Division? No, it's not Private Division either. Oh, no, it is. Yeah, Private Division made it. Because KSP1, overwhelmingly positive, came out in 2015. And the game is really well reviewed. Yeah, amazing standalone with no sequels whatsoever. Love the wonky but realistic physics, but you have to think about. Like, it's a really good, well-made game. And then the sequel came out, and they essentially, from what I know, it was nothing like the first one. It was just complete dog shit. And I guess it got abandoned, which is super sad because the game was really, really fun. Not the sequel, the original. Man, that sucks. That really sucks to see. But yeah, it's a KSP2 is a prime example of things going poorly.
Indeed. As late as March of 2025, only 2 months before the key employees claimed the game was ready for the first early access release, the development lead for Subnautica 2 at Unknown Worlds noted that the first early access and second early access, planned for December 2025, would only be about 12% of our intended 1.0 scope, and joked that at that rate, we would be in development for 30 years. The key employees became desperate. If development of Subnautica 2 continued at its current pace, the key employees would miss out on 4 quarters of consecutive revenue they needed to maximize their earnout.
Did this dude see what Subnautica 1 looked like on its original release compared to what it looks like now? Because those games are night and fucking day. Holy shit. I wonder if I can still access the old Subnautica game files. I don't think I can, but it'd be interesting if I could. Game versions? No, you can't. You can access the experimental version, but you can't access the old ones, which is a little unfortunate, but man. The difference between Subnautica 1, the Subnautica EA launch and Subnautica full release is insane. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching Jacksepticeye. He started playing in, I think, 2014 in its initial release, and then he played it all the way through all of the updates until its full release. It is fascinating to watch. You know, I'm gonna watch Jack play it after tonight. I'm gonna sit down and rewatch it because it's a fun series. I highly recommend you do as well because it's Jack. Jack is great. I think Mark also did it. Markiplier. Do you think the YouTube froggies will judge us? Yes. You gotta remember, this is going on YouTube and it's permanent. So anyway.
Which expired in June 2026. So see, this was new info. Bloomberg reported that they needed to make all this money by 2025. No, the deadline was actually June 2026. That was
which is now
making the most amount of money possible to qualify for that bonus. The lawsuit would continue.
He might cover. I was going to say that they.
With the choice between their own
it's been pushed back now.
And the best interests of Unknown Worlds and the Subnautica franchise, the key employees insisted on moving forward with a premature early access launch of Subnautica 2. Crafton would then argue that they were so worried about the game flopping, that they were so worried about the game's reputation and disappointing fans, that they had no choice but to get rid of them and get things back on track. But the accusations wouldn't just
I'm sorry, fans. I am sorry. I know you were looking forward to Subnautica. Well, hold on. I know you were looking forward to Subnautica 2. I don't want to disappoint you. I really wanted to make you proud and to make sure it all went well for you. I was looking out for you guys, so I had to do what was necessary for the game to make sure things were going on track. I fired the CEO and the lead developers of the team so that the entire company had no clear direction whatsoever and could stay on course with this new CEO that I, the CEO of Crafton, put in to make sure that things go on track. Yeah, real careful there, bud. This sounds really real, really accurate. Also, I love this article here. Clarabsco Expedition 33 has topped 8 million sales worldwide, and it's the fucking DLC. Man, I need to replay E33. That game is so fucking good.
end here. In Crafton's counter, they'd argue that when they told the co-founders that they were going to get fired, the co-founders said, well, hey, we'll just release it on our own. Fuck you. So they
That's fucking Giga Chad.
related to the game and left with them. Crafton would claim that they stole the blueprint for Subnautica. Here's what they exactly said.
What?
The key employees refused, threatened to self-publish Subnautica 2, and, anticipating their termination,
And they did.
stole hundreds of thousands of Unknown Worlds and Crafton confidential documents before they were fired, presumably in furtherance of their plan to unilaterally self-publish Subnautica 2 and capitalize on the earnout. This was complete character assassination of these co-founders.
Yeah,
making them
that's
seem like
just
they're
defamation.
money-hungry goblins that were willing to set everything on fire just to get that payout. So again, even though this was brought to court, we were faced with two very different stories. But
This makes them
unfortunately,
look
anyone
like
keeping up with this,
evil
for anyone
mustache-twirling
wanting to see where this
villains.
goes, they would have to wait some months before hearing back on what was going on, because this was heading to trial. Like, that's it. This was going to court. And so it wouldn't be until November 6th, 2025, that we saw an update to this. And it would be during a pre-trial
while.
brief. This typically happens after the discovery phase. So both sides had months to get documents, get proof, get anything to back up their claims. And what we would find here, I mean, objectively speaking, it didn't really make Crafton look any better. In fact,
Nope.
it made them look worse.
I've seen a
This is
little
actually
bit of
the first time we
this.
see mention of ChatGPT during this whole debacle. But before we get to this, we have to understand just how crazy the things that were found about the CEO of Crafton truly were. PC Gamer summed things up nicely. In the pretrial brief, the co-founders would allege that Changham Kim, the CEO of Crafton, was desperate to avoid paying them the bonuses required by their acquisition contract because of professional embarrassment that would result from the
Professional
perception that he overpaid
embarrassment.
for the studio. Interestingly enough, the co-founders would also say that Crafton was
What a
fully aware of
fucking
what was happening at the
bitch.
studio and even expressed support for it. On top of that, when it came to the claim that one of the co-founders abandoned development to focus on making a movie, the filing also claims that Crafton actually encouraged it. They would then go on to say, already concerned that Crafton had paid too much to acquire Unknown Worlds, Kim feared that making any earnout payment to founders would earn him a reputation as a pushover and endanger his position as CEO. Desperate to avoid such a professional embarrassment, Kim obsessed over finding a way
Streisand effect, I'm telling you.
to pay the earnout. The pre
And he only made himself look like a dumbass and a pushover. Holy shit.
Told Kim that Crafton would likely have to pay the earnout if sales targets were achieved, even if the studio heads were dismissed with cause. At that point, the CEO turned to artificial intelligence to help him brainstorm ways to avoid paying the earnout.
Crazy work.
ChatGPT
Fucking crazy
likewise
work.
advised that it would be difficult to cancel the earnout. This is right here in the pretrial brief, and there will be a footnote in the page saying Crafton did not produce the ChatGPT conversations.
Of course they didn't.
Pressed, confirmed that they no longer exist.
Of fucking course they didn't. Because why would it? Why would you produce documents of, you breaking the law, and very obviously so, and like present that in a space where you will be judged and put on trial and litigated against? Yeah, it's not a good look when you do something like that.
God, I wish we had them. Dude, someone contact OpenAI, please. Of course.
Yeah, can we get
representative
OpenAI
would say
to produce
no
those documents,
when
please?
asked if the claim was accurate, saying that this is nothing more than a distraction. But what's crazy here is that they're also alleging that the CEO had created something called Project X, an internal company task force, all with the purpose of not allowing the co-founders to get that bonus.
Oh my god, Project X.
And everything
What kind of
involving
fucking
it was
dork
actually
are you? Watching too many
ChatGPT's
sci-fi
idea.
sci-fi
Like, no, at this
movies.
point, I refuse to believe this guy
Action
earned this
movies.
position. This has to be nepotism. How do you end up as CEO thinking that something like Project X is a good idea?
Yeah.
Sounds like something that Elon Musk would do.
Right?
Trial brief also through Discovery would get the Slack messages. between
X is the most
CHGM
dorkiest
CEO
letter in the
and Richard
alphabet.
Yoon, the CFO.
With the way
Crafton.
that's used, that
Here you can
is.
see a conversation on the 27th of June, 2025, a few days before the firing. Richard Yoon would be saying, I had a phone call a little while ago. This time, the co-founders, are asking for $75 million for themselves and $40 million for the team members. They say they won't do it unless we negotiate the packages of the teams together. The bucket for the team members we are thinking of at present is $10 million. It might be easier to just take over, ... To which CH Kim, the CEO, would say, set a date and
Bruh.
you need to send it in advance.
Literally talking about how they're going to push out the owners.
We're going to fire them and take over the studio.
Basically,
The
this
last
gets months
piece of the
of
puzzle here
imagination.
that
You
really
could-
like
That'd be
paints the
silly.
full clear picture is that Kim's contract as Krafton CEO was going to be up for renewal in 2026, which is why this whole thing was personal for him. He understood too late that this deal was actually not really good
He
for
knew
him
he'd
and
be
his
fucked.
company, and he didn't want to lose his job. On May 2025, he even tried to gaslight Charlie Cleveland, the game director, telling him that paying the earnout would cause the value of the studio to drop significantly and that he, as the person responsible for the investment, would have to take responsibility. Just outright embarrassing.
Oh
And
my
speaking of
God,
embarrassing,
what an
it
idiot.
gets worse. It gets humiliating. A few days later, on November 19th, 2025, Chang-Hen Kim, CEO of Krafton, would get questioned during a testimony for the trial. Here, he would admit, yes, he consulted with ChatGPT. It was actually his main legal advisor. He would say this,
Which
even though
is
few
such a
days
bad
beforehand,
look.
During the pre-trial brief, a Krafton spokesperson would say, this didn't happen. It's just misinfo. You're trying to distract us from the main issue of the lawsuit. Here's what the CEO said.
And I was like,
Started
yeah, fuck it,
discussing
I
this
did it.
matter with various teams within the company to figure out what we could do. So I talked to the legal team, the finance team, and the corporate team, and the PR, all these various teams, and I also actually searched on ChatGPT to get faster answers to figure out what kind of rights we have. When asked why he would consult with ChatGPT on a matter like this, Kim said, I think, just like everyone else, I'm using ChatGPT to get faster answers or responses, just like Google search. The article from
That's
PC
not
Gamer
how
would
that
say,
works.
during
You
cross-examination,
fucking
the
moron.
former Unknown Worlds
Oh my
principals also pointed out
God.
that in a June 2 message sent to Krafton head of corporate development Maria Park, Kim included a ChatGPT link and subsequently referenced the chatbot's advice directly. He'd say, now, ChatGPT is starting to answer that it is difficult to cancel the earnout. If so, this is a contract under which we can only be dragged around. The lawyers also point out that while that particular ChatGPT conversation was subsequently deleted, as was one about a no-deal scenario with the studio, others from around the same time still exist. On redirect, Kim said he deleted those queries because what I learned is that, from OpenAI, is that if you use certain important information concerning your company, then that type of information can be used by OpenAI.
Yes,
for
it can.
legal purposes.
And guess what? Now it's going to be
You know
used
what?
to learn
The
that
dog ate
you're an
my homework
idiot.
yesterday, too. The article
Absolutely
continues,
deserves this,
"It's all rather
100%.
messy. Kim,
How did this guy become the CEO of Krafton if he's an absolute fucking moron? He's so dumb he went to ChatGPT and fucking did all this bullshit, went against the legal advice. I was like, it'll be fine. Like, what? What is wrong with you? Wait, he's a CEO. That's what's wrong with him. You know what? Never mind.
Making dozens
I
of
answered my own
ChatGPT
question.
inquiries every day regarding general business at Krafton, said he was merely using it to research his options, as he would with any other search engine. But with
It's not a
hundreds
search
of
engine.
millions of dollars at stake, not to mention
I do not understand why people use ChatGPT like it's fucking Google. It is not a search engine. It's a fucking language learning model. Why do people think it's a search engine? It's not a search engine. It's not fucking simple. It's never been a search engine. Jesus fucking Christ.
in the future of one of Krafton's potentially most lucrative games, I would think that shareholders would expect.
I'm sorry, this guy is
more
such a
than just kicking
fucking
it
idiot.
around
It makes me
with a
mad.
chatbot. And yeah, I mean, that's totally right. Like, what are you doing as a CEO? What is the leverage of having you around if you're just going to ask a chatbot about everything you're doing?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, why not just replace him with a premium subscription to ChatGPT?
Fuck it. Our CEO's not doing anything. Let's just get ChatGPT to be our boss.
The fact that barely a few days beforehand, the company denied the CEO ever using ChatGPT, and now him admitting this doesn't look good for the case at all on their side.
No, it makes it look like he's consistently lying.
And the most wishlisted game on Steam was held hostage due to a lawsuit. And make no mistake, this whole thing had happened because the CEO of Krafton had made a bad
It probably
deal.
would, Chief.
He signed
Probably
off on
would.
it. And now he wanted to run away using ChatGPT as his mentor. Fans were losing hope that they were ever going to see this game, and things were not looking good for Krafton.
I had already given up on it until I heard about the good news.
Messy and take years to be done. So it came as a shock, I think, to everyone when only a few months later, we would get the opinion of the vice chancellor presiding over this case. And to say that it would be humiliating for
It's
Krafton
nuts.
and its CEO would be an understatement. On March 16th, 2026, the vice chancellor overseeing this case in the state of Delaware would publish a 91-page opinion piece
fucking
in which we
huge.
can see the verdict outlined. TLDR, Krafton must return control to Subnautica 2 Studio CEO. However, when it came to Cleveland and McGuire,
Basically
the chancellor would
reinstated them.
argue Jill is reinstated as CEO of Unknown Worlds with full operational authority over the studio. Because restoring him vindicates the seller's operational rights, I decline to return Cleveland and McGuire to the peripheral roles they occupied before their terminations. Gil, with his authority restored, may proceed with the early access release of Subnautica 2 when he deems it appropriate. So what this means is, for now, bringing back Ted Gill as CEO is satisfactory enough for the founders to regain full control of the studio, which is what they wanted. When it comes to the other two co-founders, their roles weren't that impactful to begin with. Having Ted Gill come back as the CEO, as the guy who's heading the entire
Yeah, he was the one steering the ship.
is enough to
So
give
it's
them back full
important.
control and not allow Krafton to decide things for the studio anymore. And on top of this, the Vice Chancellor would specify, to ensure the specific performance remedy is not illusory, the base earnout period is equitably extended by the duration of Gill's ouster. So that means for the entire time that Gill wasn't CEO, the clock wasn't ticking on the deadline for the bonus.
Which is
Which means he gets
crazy.
extra time to earn that payout. The sentence
I think it's like an
afterwards
extra
is
2
very
months
important
or...
to note. It
No,
says,
actually like
whether
4
Krafton's
months or
actions
something.
wrongfully impaired the earnout and whether any resulting money damages are owed are reserved for the second phase of this litigation. So this lawsuit was not over. It's just that for now it was decided that yes, the co-founders need to get back control of the studio. It's in their right. But the question of whether Krafton deliberately wanted to sabotage the payout and whether the co-founders are owed additional money for the sabotage are reserved for the second phase of this litigation that will eventually happen. So this is far from over.
Yeah,
This opinion
basically,
piece would
they're
also
back in
talk
charge
about
and we need
Project
to
X,
see if
in
the
which we
sabotage is
understand
actually
more
real. We'll
details
do that
about it,
next.
Saying, at ChatGPT's suggestion, Kim formed an internal task force dubbed Project X. The task force mandate was to either negotiate a deal on the earnout or execute a takeover of Unknown Worlds. They looked to buy time. Kim would seek ChatGPT's counsel on how to proceed if Krafton failed to reach a deal with Unknown Worlds on the earnout. This is when the AI chatbot would come up with a response strategy to a no-deal scenario, which Kim would share with Yoon, the CFO. Here we'd see multiple steps outlined by ChatGPT, with step A being preemptive framing. Repeat that protecting quality and fan trust is the highest priority.
That's exactly
Underline
what we
the large
saw.
corporation versus indie framing, which is exactly what he did, by the way. B,
Yep.
securing control points. Lock down Steam and console publishing rights and access rights over code/build pipeline through both legal and technical aspects. For the earnout freeze, keep room for negotiations through provisions stating immediate removal if specific development results are achieved. The Vice
Which is
Chancellor
exactly what he said.
over the next month, Krafton followed most of ChatGPT's recommendations. And that's what we saw earlier in the video. That's exactly what they did with their statements,
Yep.
saying, guys, we don't think the game is ready. We care about the fans, etc.
We want it to be best for you. We're looking to put out a quality product.
Anyway, every single thing that happened after Kim had fired,
He followed it to the letter.
was literally just him following what ChatGPT had told him. A CEO
What a
of
fucking idiot. What a
$1.9
lobotomite. Like,
billion
actually a
seeking
lobotomite.
advice from an AI chatbot in order to not pay $250 million that was part of a deal he signed off on. I swear to God, you cannot
idiot.
make this shit up. But here's the thing.
Average
If
CEO
this
moment.
ended, then you're horribly wrong. A day later, The temporary CEO, Steve Paputsis, that now had to leave because Ted Gill was going to be reinstated, would share a message with the Subnautica 2
I bet he was mad about
thank
it.
everyone for the incredibly hard work, and he would announce that they had passed Krafton's milestone review just last week. Now they're ready to release in early access to the public. They were targeting May, and this information was leaked exclusively to IGN.
I think it came
This
out in
meant
May,
that
didn't
from
it?
this point onwards, the game was set to release barely 2 months after the founder CEO was reinstated. Now this caused a big problem. The CEO who had barely just came back now was facing a new issue. Why the hell would you announce the release date of the game like this? He would again call up his lawyers and file a complaint against Krafton, saying this announcement was potentially damaging the game and sowing additional confusion among the Subnautica community.
Yeah, it makes no sense and it feels dubious.
To its impact on the game, the team, or the community, let alone this court's opinion. Announcing the release of a game is momentous, and it is typically accompanied by significant marketing activity, fanfare, and community coordination. That entire process was supposed to be driven by Mr. Gill. However, in defiance of the court's opinion, Krafton has now taken that away, further damaging the game and sowing additional confusion among the Subnautica community.
This is fucking mustache twirlingly, cackling, villain lair, like sitting in the evil throne, petting the white cat, fucking evil. This is comic book evil. Oh, you're back in charge? Well, I'm gonna get my little crony who was in charge to spoil your parade by announcing the release date because fuck you, basically. What an absolute dweeb. What a fucking loser. Jesus Christ.
As a middle finger for losing the lawsuit.
Exactly.
A month later, though, I swear this is a roller coaster, this complaint would be withdrawn. The lawyer of the CEO would ask the judge to toss the motion. I guess by that point, the founders just wanted the game to release in one piece. They were prioritizing the community and wanted to stop all these legal headaches. However, a day later, after withdrawing the motion on April 23rd, the publication game developer would reach out to the lawyers of the 3 co-founders for comment. They'd say that despite the unknowns, the future of Krafton and Unknown Worlds relationship will be a continued challenge. In quotes, it's going to be extremely hard to repair the relationship between Unknown Worlds leadership and Krafton, especially after such a
no kidding.
humiliating court defeat.
Krafton's gonna be bullying them for a long time.
Interested in mending fences. So yeah, the lawsuit was done. The CEO was reinstated. It seemed like justice was handed, but Krafton still owned the studio, 100% of it. They still had to work together, and it was safe to say that this trust was gone permanently. I mean, come on, what was this? It was a failed hostile takeover. But hey, a week later, on April 30th, 2026, Subnautica 2's early access cinematic trailer would finally come out. And yeah, listen, regardless of everything,
it was awesome.
The hype is still there. Almost 2 million views, 30th trending for gaming, and an incredible like to dislike ratio. I mean, 125,000 likes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Looks like these
just 744 dislikes.
Jesus. Whether Krafton likes it or not. We would also find out that the game would finally be releasing on May 14th, 2026.
Yep, and that's when it launched.
Krafton had spent such a long time crafting its image.
Yeah, I get it, crafting.
PUBG, they sought to acquire more studios, grow their business, and truly push the idea that they cared about both their communities and the games that they produce. With something like this, they had essentially tainted their reputation into...
I mean, you could tell that they didn't with PUBG.
Another corporation obsessed with money that's willing to screw you over if it meant saving on giving you what's rightfully yours. For that, they can thank their wonderful CEO who decided to employ ChatGPT as his messiah, not even assistant, his messiah, and who'll make it very hard for the future CEO to make any deal with any company, because now they'll think, wait, are you just going to pull a Subnautica on me? And honestly, at this point, what's stopping them if the next CEO also uses ChatGPT? Guys, if there's a lesson to take from this, it's that everything in this world is good in moderation.
You sure you're not stuck in some role-playing loop here, and this only exists within the matrix of this conversation? I get why you're asking that, Alan, and it's a damn good question. Here's the real answer. No, I'm not role-playing, and no, you're not hallucinating this. What?
AI to speed things up? Go ahead, dude, but giving it control over your life, allowing it to feed your own delusions, and refusing to use your critical thinking skills will only lead to catastrophe. This is what happened to the CEO of Krafton, and this is what will happen to anyone who places so much trust in an AI chatbot. that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching
Such a
until the
stupid
end. I
thing to do.
appreciate it. If you want to see exclusive content,
I did
like
not
a
know
couple
about
videos
that.
every month from me, as well as awesome art, then definitely check
Yeah.
out stack.com. It's like Patreon but better. And
Go
I'll
check
see
him
you in
out.
the next video.
Go support Mujin. He makes awesome
So
content.
much platonically. Mwah.
What an absolute idiot. Wait, oh fuck, what does it say? Yo, ChatGPT, they actually made me CEO. What the hell do I do now, man? What a great video. I didn't know a lot of that, so it's interesting to get that that extra information I didn't know. This fucking dork right here deserves every piece of I was gonna say every piece of shit thrown at him, but that's a little far, but you know what I mean. I think there was a person that ended up depending on AI so much that it used AI for every decision they made in their everyday life. I think I have heard about something like that. Sorry, I choked on my own spit. But it's such a shitty story, and it is a shame that Unknown Worlds is still kind of stuck underneath Crafton, and they can't get out of that unless they do I forget the term, but it's like the opposite of a merger. The good news is that if you look at the Steam page, I'll show it here right now, Unknown Worlds both developed and published it, meaning they are technically self-published, which is awesome because it's such a good game. I've been having a fucking great time with it. Played it on stream, it was really, really fun. And again, I've been saying the entire time I've been playing it, it is at a point where, it's at the point of where Subnautica was just before its final release. That's where Subnautica 2 is right now. It's very, very well made and has got a lot in it for its initial release. And there's only going to be more to come. And I trust Unknown Worlds because they made Subnautica. It was so good. It took 4 years for them to finish it, but it didn't matter because every update added something new. Every update we got to see more. Every update we got more story. We got more stuff. We got to explore this world again. We got to see this world grow. It was so fascinating and fun to watch. And I don't know. I like watching games progress over time and seeing how they grow, change, build, and learn. Maybe you don't totally understand that, but it's such a good story. Like, it's a comeback story for Unknown Worlds. They were beaten down by this big corpo, and through a admittedly very easy lawsuit, they not only got back their power, got back their freedom, but also extended their payout by like 6 months or something similar. Because the entire time that the CEOs were out, the clock wasn't ticking. And it was, August, November of 2025 to May of 2026. So let's say November, December, January, February, March, April, May. That's 5 to 6 months. That is a lot of fucking time. So that means, released last month, there's still another 4 or 5 months they have to meet that $250 million payout, which is so good. And they've pretty much already met it. It's crazy. I'm really happy for them because I fucking love Subnautica. It was one of my first ever early access games that I ever played. And it was really good. I fucking love Subnautica. I hate the ocean, don't get me wrong. I don't like the ocean. I'm afraid of the ocean. I have thalassophobia. But playing that game in that world is so unique. It's so fascinating. It's so much fun to be in. And again, I got to watch it grow. It's a part of what made me love the like how games are built, the backbones behind it, like certain parts of engines and game design. Like, I love watching this stuff because I got to see it grow in real time. Granted, it's slow as fuck, but that's just game day. That's anything. Any creative process takes a long time. But watching Subnautica, watching this game I really enjoyed grow was really, really fascinating, and what really got me into like the behind the scenes of how games are made. Anyway, I've yapped enough. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed both YouTube vlogs and Twitch chat. It was a fascinating video. Not my usual type of content. I don't usually like to dive into these nitty gritty drama type stuff, but this is something I do care about because I love Subnautica, and I was kind of following this as it happened, so it was fascinating. But Yeah, I'm gonna leave this one here. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I upload daily. Check out all the links in the description. I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to suggest other things you'd like to see me react to down in the comments or over in the Discord, which you can find in the description. Thank you very much to my patrons. I love you guys. Be sure to follow me on Twitch because I stream twice a week, every Wednesday and Friday, and on Sundays for reactions as well. But that's gonna do it for me. I thank you all very much for your patronage.